this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial from my sewing community on how to draft this stylish backless halter neck blazer. So if this is something you like, please kindly follow me on my YouTube channel at Draft with Maki. And if you're still having issues on how to draft your perfect corset pattern, join us on our 5 days corset class where we'll be teaching you 5 different types of corsets. So here is my pattern. So for this pattern, I'm gonna have to mark out the basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and I'm using the total length as my blouse length. So the first thing you need to do is to mark your shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 divided by 2. I have 7 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark. From there, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, which will serve as my shoulder slope or shoulder slant. But before marking that, I'll mark out my basic neckline of 3 inches. And I'll go ahead to connect my pattern from that 1 inch shoulder slope. So next is to find your chest line, and to do that is to mark your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine will give me 7 inches. That is, my bust is 33 divided by 6 and then add 1.5 to it. So for a much bigger person or someone that is on the bigger side, you can add 2 inches to that. So whatever I have on my shoulder, I'll mark on the chest line. Go ahead to place my ruler and I will connect. After connecting, I'll go ahead to divide what I have here into 2. And I'll fold and mark. So I'll come in by ½ inch here. And I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So after marking that, I'll go ahead to connect all these lines. After marking this line, the next step you're going to take is to mark your dart. And to mark your dart, you need your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2, which is 3.5 inches. I'll mark this starting from the bust line all the way to the lower part. And after I'm done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect all the way to the lower part of my pattern. Sorry for the double line. So after I'm done connecting, the next step is to mark your dart. So I'll be marking my basic dart intake. I'll come down by 1 inch from the bust. Then on the waist, I'll be marking ½ inch. So I'll measure about 4 inches down and I'll mark. Now I'll connect from here to here. And also connect from here to here. I'll also connect at the other side of at the lower part, and also connect at the other lower side of my pattern. So from what I have here, I'm going to divide it into 2. That is finding the midpoint of 7 inches, which is 3.5. So from this point now, I'll connect it to my bust point this way. So this is what I have on my pattern, and I'm going to go ahead to outline this first, and we'll go ahead to draw out the princess dart effect we have at the bust area of this pattern. Now I'll be taking a dart intake of ½ inch on both sides. This ½ inch I took out here, I will replace it. That is 1 inch. I'll tilt my tape this way and I will reconnect, right? And from here, I'm going to blend it in to my dart and then also blend this side to the initial dart. Now, this is what I have on this pattern, and I'll go ahead to insert my measurement, which will be the next step we're going to take. So from here, I'll blend it back into my armhole line and I'll outline this. So after marking this, let's go ahead to mark our measurement. I'm going to mark my bust circumference, which is 33 divided by 4. I will mark. Then pick this ½ inch dart intake, replace. So this is ½ inch on both sides, giving me 1 inch. So this is like a blazer jacket or blazer blouse, so you don't need much sewing allowance. 1 inch is enough. Here I'll mark my under bust circumference, which is 28 inches divided by 4. I have 7 inches. Measure this ½ inch that intake replace, and I'll be adding my sewing allowance. My under bust and my waist measurement is the same, which is the 28, so I will mark it. Go ahead to measure this 1 inch that intake, replace, and add my 1 inch sewing allowance. So for this blouse length, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. After I'm done marking, I'm going to place my curved drill and I'm going to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline this to make it more visible for you to see. So now another thing you need to take note is the neckline. So looking at this pattern, I didn't really see the back, so we'll be cutting it out as a backless blazer dress. So you want to take note of your basic neckline for the back, which is 3 inches by 1.5 or 3 inches by 1. So whatever you use, go ahead to measure it and mark it out. So you're going to place your tape and measure what you have there. So what I have is about 4 inches, which I'll be using for the extension of the back neckline. So here, this pattern is a shawl blazer, so you'll be having your button allowance in front. So I'm going to add a pattern paper to the front to create the button allowance to the front part of this pattern. Then we'll now go ahead to cut out. So now I added extra pattern paper, and if you notice, I also extended it to the upper part. This is because of the collar is going to be extending to the back. Now I did not see the back of this dress, so looking at the neckline, it looks like something that has a backless pattern at the back. So what I'm going to do now is, at this line, I'm going to be adding my button allowance to my pattern. So I'll just go ahead to outline this. So for my button allowance, if you notice, is not much. So what I will be using is 1 inch. So this collar or lapel area, this collar area stopped at the under bust. So my button allowance, I'm going to stop it at the under bust of my pattern, which I'll mark 1 inch going down to the lower part of my pattern. I'll place my ruler and I'm going to connect. After I'm done connecting, the next step I'll take is to go ahead to extend my neckline at the back. So remember, we measured this, we have 4 inches. You can use either 3.5 or 4 inches. So I'll mark. So from this point now, I'm going to extend and draw out a straight line. Now, in order to make the collar relax very well, I'll go out by ½ inch and I'll blend this out. So from this part now, I'll extend it all the way going down to the under bust this way. And I'll blend it to match up. So after outlining this, the next step I'll take is the neckline. So I'll be using about 2 inches here, which I'll take all the way up. So my pattern did not really get up to that, but let's assume that you have up to 2 inches here, which you're going to connect, or you can use 1.5. So from here, I'm going to extend it. So when I'm extending this, I'll go ahead to blend up my pattern and connect. So also when I'm connecting, instead of blending it out here entirely, I'll add like few extra inches, like ½ inch, before blending out. So why did I do that? You notice when you're joining this part to this part tends to be slightly longer, just to avoid that. So but if you join it and you tend to have like an excess, you can just take it off a little. But most times when you're joining this to this, you find out that hair tends to be longer. So I'll go ahead to connect. So next, for the color here, I'll be using about 2.5 inches, which I will blend to this part. So I'm just going to be using a free hand to cut out this part to get the shape I want exactly. So I'm just going to go ahead to keep connecting, and when you're connecting, whatever you have should at least have like this roundish effect and not a straight effect. So here I'll blend it off this way. So I'll now go ahead to cut this out. So this is what I have, and here will be the button allowance. So I'll go ahead to cut this out so that so after cutting out this part, now you notice that you can easily open up the collar area of your pattern. So I'll go ahead to cut out the rest of the pattern, and after cutting this, we'll move over to the front part of the pattern. So if you have any question regarding this particular pattern illustration, go ahead to leave your question at the comment section. So after this, we'll go over to cut out the back pattern of the dress. So here's the back pattern of my dress. To mark out the basic measurements, which is the shoulder to bust, waist and blouse length. So for this pattern, since it's a backless pattern, I'm going to make it without a dart to make it easier and have a neater finishing at the back. So I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here, and I'll add 1 inch for my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, then add my sewing allowance. Then go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4. Then use the remaining part as the sewing allowance. So I'm going to go ahead to connect my pattern, and after connecting it, I'll be cutting it out. So also extend this to your chest line, and I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. After cutting out my back pattern, this is what my pattern will be looking like. And with this, we have come to the end of today's video. Join us in our next tutorial. Thanks.